Anthropic's Fable 5 model really has changed the game. In terms of the complexity and quality of projects that you can use it to conjure up, all of a sudden we're all software developers now. For example, look at this little game. It took me just a couple of days to vibe code the whole thing. With Claude Code, using Fable on high effort, manually coding this might have taken months of effort. It's a bit humbling, to be honest, but also inspirational, genuinely. The bulk of the vibe coding time, I was mainly iterating on things like the control system, the gameplay rules, and balancing the gameplay. As it should be, really. You want to be focusing on that, not on how to call a particular JavaScript function or whatever. So anyway, oh my god, I recorded the whole process. I suppose it's a game development video diary. So here's the massively cut down highlights. Oh, and also, for the bulk of this, I was wearing a salmon coloured shirt. I don't know why. Here we go. As you can see here, we got a terminal. This is on Linux, so I don't get the full swish Claude Code UI, but I do get text and stuff. So let's actually launch. Oh, actually, first I'll show you what's in here. Because before this, I did spend a bit of time prompting Claude via the web chat using not Fable 5. Instead, I've been using Opus 4.8 in, I think, mostly high, at some points extra effort, and without realising it, kind of burned through a whole bunch of tokens there. The idea with that was to initially come up just with the overall game design and just kind of iterate on that for a bit before bringing in the big guns, or the big gun really, with Fable 5. To be honest, what I probably could have just done was prompted Fable and just said, write me a web-based video game that combines Risk, the world domination board game, with Tiddlywinks and brings in some kind of nuclear option or something. Because that's essentially what this is. That was the starting point. But yeah, if I'd just prompted Fable with that, go and figure it out with all the game design and so on, that probably would have been fine. It would have saved me virtually a whole day, certainly an afternoon, of just iterating on it. But that process itself was so goddamn satisfying. It's just, I enjoyed it. Maybe that's the point. I was learning stuff as I went along.
First, the game design.
Yeah, this was the initial prompt then in the Claude chat. This prompt is to research and create an optimal prompt for Fable 5. Yes, it was a prompt for a prompt. Using Claude Code with Fable 5 while it's on the pro subscription till tomorrow. I want to create an HTML game, global, thermonuclear tiddlywinks. By the way, all three of those words are complete and utter nonsense, maybe with the exception of tiddlywinks. The game should work on both PC with mouse and keyboard and devices with touch screens, like one of your modern day video phones, adapting to the screen dimensions, option to switch to full screen mode and back, blah blah blah. The game is a cross between Risk, world domination, and Tiddlywinks. Flip or flick a piece at its edge to move it from country to country. I ended up calling these territories. Use the same countries and map layout as in Risk. Yeah, I did say that. But what I ended up with is something quite different anyway. Yeah, I ended up spending quite a long time on this. Just iterating back and forth. Like, there's all sorts of like, oh, by the way this, oh, by the way that, which is great. I did end up maxing out my entire token allocation. Luckily, there's just an hour to wait for the allocation to reset. Phew. So I just went out for a walk. Down, all of that. So there's all sorts of this kind of thing. Let's set a maximum of 6 players for smaller screens to make it a simplified board. Then I kind of got the idea from this. We may consider a simplified board with fewer territories. In fact, the board or map should be an entirely swappable component. The user chooses a map at the start, though the default is the one we've been discussing. We may add more maps later. Wouldn't that be amazing? So you could just have a world map, you could have a Stygian underworld kind of map, all sorts, fantasy maps, Lord of the Rings maps, whatever you want to do. It's all going to be tiddlywinks anyway. Produce a list of random player names, conquerors, generals, etc. from history, and also from out of copyright sci-fi and fantasy, not too obscure. Maybe 30 names, from which the player names are randomly selected. That was its selection. I thought it was pretty good. I'm tempted to add Pocahontas as an all-conquering warlord, just because. Zendaya is in there. That's nice. You know, she's everywhere these days. Ming the Merciless, John Carter. Oh, Deja Thoris. Okay, from A Princess of Mars. Never read it. I probably should. Professor Challenger from The Lost World. Captain Nemo. Captain Nemo has to be in there, for definite. Captain Nemo Conquers the World will be the sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Morgan Le Fay? Not Arthur. Why isn't Arthur in there? But anyway, Morgan Le Fay. Odysseus. Hooray! Not the feminist version. The swappable map. This is a significant architectural addition. Yeah, I would think so. But also just good to keep things modular. There is always a bit of a trade-off between the modular aspect, modular, like swappable aspect, and just coding to the metal, keeping it simple. So I hope that doesn't over-complexify it. But then I won't be writing the code, so maybe it doesn't matter. There's a very good segue into computer player skill levels. If you're playing against a computer, you don't want something more interesting than just easy, medium, or hard. You kind of want to be able to play against different playing styles. So like pacifist, where they only occupy neutral territories and they wouldn't actively invade, but they would attack, they would defend, all the way up to warlord, all-out aggression, attacks to conquer, grrr, and maybe a few in-between styles. But then separately, orthogonally even from that, you could have a separate skill slider, and Claude responds, this is a meaningful refinement. Thank you. It actually is. And it separates two things I'd wrongly bundled into a single skill level. So you can have up to 6 players. You can choose which ones are humans and which ones are computer controlled. You can set all the players to be computer controlled if you want. Watch different playing styles play off against each other. That'll be interesting. Once this is all done, this will go up onto the Matter.js website along with all the other widgets, the growing selection of widgets. Just as the last thing on here, actually an important part I forgot to mention, which should really go near the start. For context, I will publish the finished game to my website, maftopia.com, which is WordPress/PHP. I have similar HTML5 widgets published there, like the price action patterns widget. Have a look at this example widget page and its internals. Use the same Syra font throughout the GTT UI. I copy-pasted in a bunch of other stuff from previous chats, not just with Claude, but with Gemini as well. So then you get the very self-contained gtt.js and a local test HTML file, which will just be served up, and blah, 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 blah. Just run that to run the local server. Just serve it. And also run that in remote debug mode so that Claude Code can just control the page, get it to reload, do all of the good things. That's enough ranting and preambling. Let's actually get on with the thing we want to be doing here. I've downloaded the first prompt, which I'm going to give Claude Code, and Claude Chat kindly generated a specific version of that local test HTML, and also something else I asked for, which is an audio checklist, because I'll need to go off and find or generate or whatever different audio files for things like menu selection, an explosion, flicking the tiddle. Let's all flick our tiddles together, and so on. Let's launch Claude. Let's launch Claude. Claude. Ba-ba-bow. Claude Code v 2.1.198. Sonnet 5 with high effort. Model. It's on high effort. That's probably fine for this, I would think. So the way to do this, we should be able to do there it is. GTT Fable 5 first prompt. Let's say something like build this. Start with step 1, the build order, and stop for review as instructed. If I bring in the prompt here, so you are building GTT. So step 1 is this non-negotiable constraints, blah, 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 blah. This really is just like this setup. So there you go. Let's do that. There's going to be a lot of this. Bash command ls-la. I think, yes, that's absolutely fine. It's essentially looking at a previous Maftopia widget that's created. Yes, it's good that it's looking at that for reference. The brief mentions a supplied local test.html reference shell, so that is already there. While it's doing that, I'll just go and load the Chromium browser in remote debug mode, because obviously it's going to be wanting that quite soon. I mean, that's launched. Bit anticlimactic there. It's on a separate screen at the moment, so I'll bring that over when it actually has something to show. Oh, another one. Okay. Do you want to create gtt.js? I mean, it's a permission, sure, but the whole point of this was please create gtt.js. Yes, and it wants more approval. Goes to show you can't really just walk away and leave this to it. Leave it for an hour to run and come back and it's still right at the start with this. So this command, yeah, run the server. I'm just going to bring in this as well. Placeholder board. Real map data arrives at build step 2. It's quite exciting. That's a counter with strength 1. That's a counter. I'm calling them counters. I've been calling them pieces until now. Maybe counters are better bit. Anyway, it's a tiddle. That's a tiddle with strength 1. That's a tiddle with strength 3. So what I may do here now, can I do that, something along those lines. Well, basically that. It's been crunching for 6 minutes. Getting my money's worth here, I think. Scrolling up a bit. Oh, it goes quite a long way. What's in the scaffold? That's what we all want to know. Oh, good. Local test HTML used as supplied, unchanged. That's good. It started a decisions markdown file, and it's logging the scaffold choices below. So we've got World space, fixed size world units, a single scale and offset maps world screen each frame, letterboxed so the whole board always fits, to world XY mapping is ready for input in step 3. Sizing, the shell keeps the world aspect ratio via CSS aspect ratio when embedded. A resize observer on the shell drives relayout, which is pretty great. High DPI, backing store, blah blah blah, lots of really good things. It's thought about these things, to be honest, so that I don't have to. Full screen, button top, oh brilliant, it's got a full screen button. Should give it a bit more width. Full screen does this. That's just so good. It's shockingly good. So you can press escape. I think it also allows that. So there's an assets layer, manifests with all 8 IDs. Winks. Oh, it's calling them winks. Okay. Yeah, winks. I was calling them tiddles. Winks is a good name. Sheen layered after tinting so it stays light. One of the things earlier I was asking Chat Claude was to make the winks kind of resemble the original like cheap plastic counters, machine produced with imperfections, they're kind of irregular. Physics. Alright, good. So the gameplay isn't in there yet. There's going to need to be a title page, a start game, selecting the number of players and that sort of thing. One observation, not acted on. The supplied shell sets min width 1000, because that's kind of how it is, which will force horizontal scrolling on phones. It's the page layout. There's not a lot I can really do about it. Well, I could, but don't really want to. If the live page uses the same rule, the sizes to a phone column behavior can't happen. Looks good. Proceed. Should I be that impressed that it's just initially produced that? Yeah, it's a placeholder and everything. It's going to need to go and get geographical data for all of this. So this is all drawing on an HTML canvas. So it's a new day and a new shirt and a fresh new set of credits that I've got to play with on Claude. But also, look at this. It's created a more detailed map. So now we actually have continents. We have Greenland and we've got Iceland, Scandinavia. Okay, why not combine all of those? Britain, shaped exactly like how Britain is shaped. It's also painted in some mountain ranges. I guess it hasn't done the Alps. If we keep the vertical terrain, then we'll probably need a few more mountain ranges in there. That's if we keep it. We don't have Antarctica. We don't have an ice wall. Maybe we need that. Actually, let's jump through a bit of what this was saying first. Mountains block flat flicks. Absolutely. The Western USA piece was stopped by the Rockies. Oh yeah, it was doing some game testing. One thing though,
Test the game and keep on refining it.
what I'd initially instructed it, and which looking at it now I think is quite wrong, is that the length of time, like with the mouse here, the length of time that I hold down the click for, that goes for a sort of higher height, a bigger height of jump. So you could kind of hop over mountain ranges and things, but not have quite so much of the range. But it's trying it out now, it's not very intuitive. What we have got is the Angry Bird style. If I click on the edge of the wink and move the mouse away, so you can kind of see, just about see that see a line extending in the direction where it's going to flick. So it goes in the opposite direction. And the further away that I pull that, the further it's going to jump. Let me get it up to Siberia in one hop, which we'll obviously need to fine tune that a bit.
Yay!
Whoa, that's pretty neat. You can kind of tell that it went up high as well. Maybe it's not so bad. So I'm going to try and hop it over this mountain. Let's try that. Oh, it's telling me that it's blocked. Okay, that's pretty good. Hop. Nope. Nope. Let's start to add in some notes. Let's move the position within the piece. Affects the power. It's a bit confusing. That's one thing. The flick is too powerful. There should be a maximum. It's rare to be able to jump across multiple territories. To get across any ocean like this, you'd need to kind of go a particular route, like up there, or if we had like an Antarctica route down south, oceans shouldn't be other than via short hops. Add Antarctica, maybe add Antarctica with two territories, so there's a route both Greenland, etc. at the north and Antarctica at the south, obviously. Piece, well, that is useful during testing, but will lessen the level of challenge during actual play. Add a Boolean setting to toggle this. Leave on for now. I'm actually thinking let's just get rid of the height. There's too much going on otherwise. The height doesn't really add much. In any case, let's remove the height click. I think it'll just be confusing. So with a heavy heart, the mountains can be removed as well. Let's do it. See what it does. While that's still going, because that's been tomfoolering for 7.5 minutes. That time actually flew by. I was typing out some more instructions at the ready. It's good to keep the map 16:9 aspect ratio, because I think that is pretty good. Oh, it's added Antarctica. Woohoo! Okay, brilliant. Anyway, so yeah, it's good to keep the map 16:9 aspect ratio. 16:9 aspect ratio, regardless of page zoom level, etc. However, let's add a zoom feature on a touchscreen. Pinch to zoom in or out. On the web, mouse wheel and control plus or dash thing. If zoomed in, the map should be scrollable by dragging the canvas on the ocean, land, wherever there isn't a wink or other interactive element. However, I also wanted to note to it, and to you, that the default zoom level is always 100% zoomed out. So you'd start with that, the map width or height, whichever's longer exactly fits the viewport. Note, other maps may not always be the same 16:9 ratio. So let's just add that. It's queued up. Meantime, it's still tomfoolering. 9 minutes now. Oh my gosh. Antarctica is in, and the Argentina West Antarctica hop worked. Aim arrow plus landing ring render correctly, but the range test piece ended at somewhere unexpected. It's checking good, it's self-checking and things. Yada yada. And I'll just add this in as well. It's actually great to see that taking shape. So you can kind of see the different routes. So you'll be able to hop from there to there. I mean, maybe it's a bit further over. Hop from there to there, just about. Or you may have to go there to there, or there to there, then there to there. I don't think it needs the dashed lines showing these routes, besides which they're probably a bit out of date now. I should have just said removed the dashed lines from the sea. In a sense, I suppose, I'm also giving it context. There's a trade-off, I suppose, between just giving it a direct imperative instruction and telling it why. But maybe it's obvious. If I say remove it, it's not needed, obviously. So I don't know. Extending Alaska and Kamchatka towards the seam, so the Pacific crossing is in flick range, and adding their adjacency. Brilliant. This is the sort of thing, it's getting into the vibe of it. It knows what I'm asking for, and it's going to get into these details and figuring them out. Maximum move distance is still a little bit too far. Do proceed with the next step. Exclamation mark, because it's grand. One thing I probably ought to check, because I did ask it to do the zooming. Oh, that's amazing. Then it's scrollable. It just did it. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's not on my phone, obviously, so I can't test the pinch zoom, but I almost just don't care. I think this is just so amazing. That's just brill. How far does it go? It has a sensible maximum. Love it. Love it, love it. Pac-Man wrap. Oh, I didn't check that actually. Let's give it a quick Pac-Man wrap test. Wrap. So if I do that, oh yeah, you see on the other side, over here, I'm just going to edge it a little bit closer. Oh, it's so close. Doesn't fall off, it's right on the edge. And into Alaska you go. That's beautiful. Can we get from Argentina to West Antarctica? Not from there, mate. You have to do 2 hops. There. Mwah! Chef's kiss of a sort of thing. So yeah, so we've got routes. So get from there to there, get from there hoppity hop across into Europe, and from there we can go Japan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we'd be able to get into Japan. Sauteed for 20 minutes. All right, let's do this. So we said blah blah blah, lots of things. Let's do it. I'm excited now to see some actual gameplay emerge on this. To be honest, we've got a long way to go. So out of all of the things, we still got the title page. Oh, victory condition. Selecting the players. All of these things. What else? That's it. I just wanted to add that. What I haven't done with any of this is any form of code review. And to be honest, I don't think I will. Maybe for the purpose of what we're doing here, that would be kind of missing the point. If it was for a work project, some professional thing, then I absolutely would be reviewing the code as we go along. And perhaps more so, I'd have some other AI model as the code reviewer, just doing the checking. And also just as a sanity checker, equally as QA, quality assurance. So we'd have AI software tester, AI code reviewer, AI architect, AI game designer, even. All of these different things. And these would all be agents as well. A multiple agentic approach. Maybe a it's even preferable to have them from different AI vendors. In the meantime, oh, look at this, it's making colours, it's added in the territories that are owned. So the light's grey. If you're wondering earlier why the world map just showed all the land in grey goo, like it's post-apocalyptic, the nanobots have just reduced everything to further nanobots, essentially, just lying in the equivalent of ashes everywhere. So it's not that. The grey territories are neutral territories. They haven't been claimed by anyone. Oh, and up there it's now saying player 1 to move. You can skip turn if you want to. So what I've got then, it's a bit too easy to knock enemy pieces into the sea. It devalues their strength value. It devalues the value. In fact, I'll get rid of that. It devalues their strength. Tweak the physics so that higher strength pieces effectively have more inertia when hit. So not generally.
But what's it for?
I'm on the home stretch now, I think. Yet another new day, yet another new top. This is how it goes. I've already published a version of the game onto mathtopia.com. Do go and check it out. What I'm doing at the moment is just kind of like the final thing, really, which is adding better sounds. There are lots of blips and blops already, and they're actually okay, but I think we can do better. So I've downloaded a whole bunch of audio sounds that are free to use. I've got to check through the licenses of those. There was this that Claude initially put together, audio checklist, very handy. Very handy, so I could just go through sourcing sounds for each one. I've added the ticks and the crosses so I just know which ones I found and matched up. Things like the click, start a match, add a player, remove player, that blah 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 and things. So now, what was the command I told it? Sound effects are next was my prompt. Oh, and also I completely maxed out my Fable 5 usage credits, and they don't reset until sometime next week. So obviously that was going to happen. I'm just ridiculously overusing it. So instead I'm just slumming it here with Opus 4.8 on high effort. And to be honest, it's still really capable. I wonder if I could have just done this whole thing with Opus and it would have just worked out pretty much the same. Maybe not. I did notice some things where I was genuinely kind of like, oh wow, okay, Fable just worked that out and I didn't need to. Whereas Opus, from previous kind of vibe coding things, it can just get its pants elastic in a twist. So I'm prompting it, sound effects are next. I've updated GTT audio checklist.mt, which is the file I just showed. Some of the sound effects are not yet matched. The matched ones are in blah blah blah, do things with it. So a lot of them were WAV files. I want this to convert those over to ogvorbis. It's just better for the web, smaller file size, that sort of thing. I'm so excited to play this now with the new sound effects. I really want to show you the game already, because it's already great, but why bother without the new sound effects? Let's get those in first. I'm wondering now if maybe I should have done this as two separate prompts. I've asked it to go and do the conversion, and in the same prompt I asked it then to go and do a bunch of complex thinking about wiring these in. I just feel that might hit a token window sort of limit. So fingers crossed that it gets through all of what I've asked it to do there without suddenly hallucinating. Thinking maybe I should tell it to preload all of the sounds as well. But also I'm a little bit loath to do that because then it's going to need to add a on the title page kind of loading scroll bar. Maybe you could just do that. It is a funny thing because with Fable I would have had no hesitation, just tell it to do that. But now I'm hesitant. Okay, we've got the audio. We're really going places with this now. Just a couple of updates. On the title screen, immediately start loading all audio files if not already being done, and if it doesn't freeze the UI while loading. Only start playing the title music when either start or about are clicked. In other words, these start or about. Because with any web page, if it wants to start playing audio files, it kind of requires some kind of user interaction first, which is good. You don't just want a page to suddenly start blasting out super loud military marching music or something like that. It'll wait for an interaction, it'll load the audio files first. I don't think it would freeze the UI, but JavaScript is kind of single-threaded, and but that load will be off on its own browser process in any case, and hopefully you'll just get the notification back once it's loaded. If the title music is already playing, don't restart it. I've tried to go for something that's quite subtle, so it's not like a sort of global, thermonuclear, tiddlywinks, shouty thing. It's just like subtle, a little bit sinister to suit the subject matter, I think, because the whole point of nuclear weapons is so that we're all scared of them and require large governments to look after us. And it's over on mathtopia.com/GTT. That's where you go. GTT is a world domination strategy game played with plastic tiddlywink pieces, or the winks, and nuclear weapons. Launch your military campaign on a flat Earth or globe Earth map. So there's something there for everyone. Scroll down for details of how to play. It's pretty intuitive though. I think it is. You should just play the thing. Oh, also, you can zoom into the map. If you're on a touchscreen, pinch zoom. Very meta, but GTT was created while recording an Agentic vibe coding video. This video is happening right now. Then a fairly lengthy thing about how to play, but recommended, just start playing. In any case, maybe read the first few paragraphs of this. It does kind of tell you useful things. Then it goes gradually more into the long weeds as you scroll down. All sorts of things in there. Go on to... Oh yeah, there's a full screen button. It's much better in full screen. So go and do that and have fun. Thank you so much for watching all the way through this, assuming you did. Well, you must still be watching if you're hearing this. Do like the video, leave a comment. What are you vibe coding at the moment? Have you been using Fable? Have I been utterly misusing Claude Code and Fable? Am I just doing it wrong? Do let me know. I really want to hear. So let's go. That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.